Once upon a time, in the middle of winter, when snowflakes were falling from the sky like feathers, a queen sat by her window sewing. As she worked, she pricked her finger, and 3 drops of blood fell onto the snow. The red on the white looked so beautiful that she thought, "I wish I had a child as white as snow, as red as blood, and as black as the ebony frame of this window." Soon after, the queen gave birth to a little girl who was as white as snow, with lips as red as blood and hair as black as ebony. She named her Snow White. Sadly, the queen died shortly after the child's birth. A year later, the king remarried. His new queen was beautiful but proud and vain. She had a magic mirror and often asked it. The mirror always replied,
"Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?"
"You, my queen, are the fairest of all."
As Snow White grew, she became more and more beautiful, until one day the mirror answered differently.
"Queen, you are fair, 'tis true, but Snow White is fairer than you."
The queen became furious and ordered a huntsman to take Snow White into the forest and kill her. As proof, he was to bring back her heart, but the huntsman took pity on the girl and let her go. Instead, he killed a wild boar and took its heart to the queen. Snow White ran deep into the forest until she found a small cottage. Inside, everything was tiny and neat. She ate a little food from each plate and lay down on one of the 7 little beds. Exhausted, she fell asleep. That evening, the owners of the cottage returned 7 dwarfs who worked in the mines. They found Snow White sleeping and were amazed by her beauty. When she woke, she told them her story, and they agreed to let her stay if she would cook and clean for them. Meanwhile, the queen asked her mirror again.
"Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?"
The mirror replied,
"Queen, you are fair, 'tis true, but Snow White, beyond the mountains with the 7 dwarves, is still fairer than you."
Enraged, the queen disguised herself as an old peddler and went to the dwarves' cottage. She offered Snow White a beautiful lace bodice and laced it so tightly that the girl collapsed. The dwarves returned just in time and revived her. The next time, the queen gave Snow White a poisoned comb, which also nearly killed her. Again, the dwarves saved her. Finally, the queen made a poisoned apple. One bite sent Snow White into a deep, death-like sleep. The dwarfs, believing her dead, laid her in a glass coffin. One day, a prince rode by and saw the beautiful girl. Entranced, he asked the dwarfs to let him take her. As his servants carried the coffin, they stumbled, and the piece of poisoned apple dislodged from Snow White's throat. She awoke. The prince asked her to marry him, and she agreed. The evil queen, upon asking her mirror, learned that Snow White was alive and now the fairest of all. In a rage, she attended the wedding, where she was forced to dance in red-hot iron shoes until she fell down dead. And so Snow White and the prince lived happily ever after.